Imagine buying a high-performance sports car, but you're only legally allowed to drive it inside your living room.
Oh, wow. That sounds incredibly frustrating.
Right. I mean, you have all this horsepower, all this precision engineering, and it's just idling between your coffee table and your sofa.
Waiting to go.
Exactly. And we spend so much time in these deep dives looking at the overarching history or, abstract training methodology.
Through the broad health statistics of different breeds, yeah.
Right. But today, we are stripping all of that back.
Yeah.
We are taking the absolute mountain of source material on the Doberman Pinscher and aiming it directly at your actual life.
Because that's what really matters to the listener.
It is. The mission for this deep dive is to answer one incredibly practical question. What does a random Tuesday actually look like when you share your home with this specific animal?
I love that. It really is the only question that truly matters. I mean, you can memorize a breed standard or trace their lineage perfectly.
Right, but that doesn't help you on a Tuesday.
Exactly. None of that prepares you for what happens when your alarm goes off at 6 a.m. on a freezing rainy weekday.
Oh, man, yeah.
So we are looking at this not as a warning label, but as a really rigid matching exercise. We want to help you figure out if this breed's hardware and software actually integrate with your daily routine.
Because the quickest way to ruin your life and the dog's life is trying to jam a high-needs working breed into a low-engagement lifestyle, right?
Absolutely. It's a recipe for disaster for everyone involved.
So looking through our sources today, a central thesis kept slapping me in the face. And I want to put it front and center for you to hold on to as we navigate this.
What's the thesis?
A Doberman isn't a dog you simply own. It is a dog you actively build your daily life around.
Oh, that is spot on.
Okay, let's unpack this, starting with the emotional foundation of the house itself.
The bonding.
Right. Who does this dog actually bond with? Because the prevailing narrative out there paints the Doberman as this hyper-intense, aloof creature that just, rigidly attaches to whoever holds the leash and ignores everyone else.
Yeah, the classic one-person dog myth. To understand the mechanics of how they bond, we really have to look at the blueprint laid down in the 1890s.
Louis Doberman, right?
Exactly. Louis Doberman was a tax collector and a night watchman in Germany.
Not exactly the safest jobs back then.
Not at all. He was walking through dangerous areas and needed a dog that wasn't just intimidating. He needed one that functioned as an extension of his own nervous system.
Wow, an extension of his nervous system.
Yeah, he engineered a close working partner designed to constantly read its handler's micro-expressions, body language, and energy.
That is intense.
It is. And that deep, intense genetic wiring, it didn't stay in the 19th century.
Ugh.
When you bring a Doberman into a modern home, you are bringing in an animal biologically compelled to monitor you.
But see, that's where I get hung up. People see that intense monitoring, like the dog staring a hole through one specific person in the kitchen, and they assume it's a one-person dog.
Right, they see the focus.
But diving into the behavioral notes in our sources, it looks like that's a complete misinterpretation.
It absolutely is.
It sounds like they aren't emotionally restricted to one person. They're just like a mirror reflecting your investment. If the whole family puts in the time, the dog bonds with the whole family, right?
You nailed it. They are ultimate reflection machines. The dog will undeniably form the deepest neurological connection with the most consistent handler.
So whoever is doing the heavy lifting.
Exactly. The person delivering the training, creating the structure, providing the physical output, observers see that profound synchronicity and mistake it for exclusivity.
That makes a lot of sense.
But in a family environment, if multiple people are actively involved in the dog's life, meaning, the teenager does the feeding, the spouse handles the evening walk, and you handle the morning training, the dog extends that devotion to the entire household.
Oh, that's really cool. So they aren't naturally distant like, say, a livestock guardian dog that just wants to sit alone on a hill watching sheep.
No, not at all. The Doberman wants to be in your skin.
Well, if they're that socially attuned and intense, how does that translate to a chaotic household?
Chaos is tricky.
I mean, imagine you have a toddler running around screaming, moving erratically. You're mixing a 19th century protection dog with a 3-year-old. That sounds incredibly risky.
It comes down to predictability and early integration, because their brains are wired to obsessively classify their environment into safe or threat.
Right, constantly scanning.
Yeah. So a Doberman raised alongside children with gradual, positive, and heavily supervised socialization learns to classify the erratic movements and high-pitched noises of kids as baseline normal.
So they just tune it out.
Or they accept it. They can actually be remarkably gentle and patient, essentially extending their protective umbrella over the children.
Wow.
However, the caveat in the literature is severe. You cannot just drop an adult unsocialized Doberman into a chaotic home and expect the dog to understand what a toddler is.
Right, the foundation has to be built intentionally.
Precisely.
And moving up the age bracket, what about teenagers?
Teenagers are arguably the optimal dynamic.
Wait, really? Why is that?
Well, a teenager has the physical capability to participate in the dog's energy management. When a teenager takes over a training session or a structured walk, the dog's brain registers them as a working partner.
Oh, so it builds mutual respect rather than the dog just viewing the teen as a other puppy in the house?
Exactly. It's a fantastic bonding opportunity.
Let's look at the complete opposite end of the physical spectrum then. The sources outline a very specific caution for older adults or seniors.
Yes, this is a crucial point.
Because if we are talking about a dog that weighs between 70 and 100 pounds and is built entirely out of fast-twitch muscle fiber, we are suddenly dealing with a basic physics problem.
We're dealing with force, mass, and acceleration.
Yeah, exactly.
If a primary handler lacks physical strength or stability, leash handling and impulse control training cannot be an afterthought.
Right, because if a 90-pound Doberman decides to lunge at a squirrel,
An older owner or someone with limited mobility cannot rely on sheer physical leverage to stop them. They will get pulled over.
so the behavioral conditioning has to be flawless.
Flawless. The dog must have a rock-solid, conditioned response to yield to the handler's verbal commands and leash pressure. Otherwise, the daily physical reality of owning the dog just becomes dangerous.
That physical reality actually pivots perfectly into the most common argument I hear about working breeds.
The yard argument.
Yes. The absolute insistence that if you want a Doberman, you must have a sprawling, half-acre fenced backyard.
Oh, I hear this all the time.
But wait, if this dog is genetically designed to be a Velcro dog attached to your hip, why do people think a massive empty lawn solves anything?
What's fascinating here is that the mandatory big yard is the most pervasive, damaging illusion in modern dog ownership.
Damaging, really.
Yes, because people conflate square footage with genuine engagement. A Doberman does not care about the dimensions of your property line. Physical space matters infinitely less than the quality of the interaction happening within that space.
Having a big yard for a Doberman is like buying a treadmill and putting it in your living room.
That's a great way to put it.
Just having it there doesn't make you fit. A yard doesn't walk or engage a dog. A person does. A yard doesn't run drills. And a yard definitely doesn't provide mental friction.
Exactly. Passive access to an unused backyard does absolutely nothing for their neurochemistry.
So they won't just go out and exercise themselves.
If you open the back door and let a Doberman out onto a 10-acre estate by itself, it is not going to self-exercise. It will not run laps.
What will it do?
It's going to walk 10 feet out, pee, and then sit at the back door staring through the glass waiting for you to come outside.
That is hilarious.
Because, again, the genetic imperative is to be with the handler.
So if I'm hearing this right, you're telling me a dog bred for endurance and guarding can actually thrive in a small apartment?
Absolutely.
That sounds like a recipe for a destroyed sofa and a noise complaint.
It sounds counterintuitive, I know. But an apartment Doberman with a highly committed daily routine of walks and enrichment often thrives much more than a suburban dog left alone in a huge yard.
Wow, because the apartment forces you to engage.
Exactly. When you live in an apartment, you cannot be lazy. You are forced to put a leash on the dog. You are forced to physically step outside, navigate the environment, and actively interact with the dog to meet its needs.
And that forced, genuine engagement is exactly what stabilizes the dog's mind.
Spot on.
Let's quantify that engagement. If you are a working owner looking at your own schedule, what is the actual daily time budget you have to spend to keep this dog balanced?
The consensus in the literature demands a minimum of 1.5 to 2 hours of genuinely dedicated time spread across the day.
2 hours. Wow.
And the crucial mechanism here is that it cannot just be 2 hours of mindless running.
Right. The sources break down the specific numbers, so throwing a tennis ball until their tongue hangs out isn't enough.
Not even close.
It's a structured morning walk mixed with play to drain the initial physical energy. Then, crucially, mental enrichment like making them use their nose or solve a puzzle worked into the midday.
And then an evening activity.
Right. Followed by genuine downtime together.
I love the concept of active downtime. It is teaching the dog an off switch. It's the act of being in the same room, settling down on a dog bed while you watch TV.
Fulfilling that innate drive to just be near you, but without being in a state of high arousal.
Exactly. They need to learn how to chill.
Okay, we've mapped out the time budget, but let's introduce the 9 to 5 reality. We established they need all this time, but what happens during that stretch when the owner actually has to leave for work?
Right, the typical Tuesday.
You've done the morning walk, but now you commute to an office for 8 hours. Can a dog with this level of attachment actually handle solitude, or are they just going to dismantle the house out of spite?
Well, spite is a human emotion. Dogs operate on anxiety and boredom.
Fair point.
With a gradual introduction to solitude, most Dobermans can handle a typical workday, but only if you have engineered the environment for success.
Meaning they had a properly engaged morning.
Yes, and practically speaking, an 8-hour unbroken stretch is pushing the limit for a high-drive dog. A midday break from a neighbor or dog walker is often the linchpin to making a 9 to 5 schedule work.
Well, what does this all mean for the neighbors? I mean, are we looking at a noise complaint situation if they get bored?
It's a huge concern for people. Let's clarify something. Dobermans are not inherently excessive barkers like some hounds or terriers.
They don't just bark for the fun of it.
Right, they aren't recreational barkers. When a Doberman barks, it is purposeful. They alert bark, they attention bark, or they anxiety bark.
And the crucial insight from the sources is that a physically tired but mentally understimulated Doberman is usually the one causing household peace issues.
Yes, you can put a Doberman on a treadmill for 5 miles.
Right.
But if you haven't engaged their brain, you leave them with a surplus of mental energy and no job to do.
So they invent a job.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Usually that job becomes frantically guarding the front window, pacing and alert barking at every single leaf that blows across the sidewalk.
Yikes. So the excessive barking stems from an unguided mind trying to exert control over its environment.
Perfectly said.
Let's shift the environment. Say you are working from home, it's Tuesday afternoon, you're on a Zoom call, and the dog has to interact with the rest of the world. Let's call this the Tuesday afternoon test.
I like that.
Let's start with a massive hurdle. You already own a cat. You're telling me a dog bred with high prey drive and protection instincts is just going to happily cohabitate with a feline.
It requires overriding their prey drive with their pack drive.
How do you even do that without the cat getting hurt?
You don't just toss a puppy into the living room with a resident cat and cross your fingers. You use gradual, controlled, calm introductions over weeks.
Okay, barrier control.
Exactly. You are essentially utilizing their high social attunement. You are teaching the dog's brain to reclassify the cat.
From prey to pack.
Right. The cat goes from being a small, furry prey object moving fast to an established member of my handler's family unit. Once that neural pathway is set, they form remarkably close bonds.
Because of that social attunement.
Yes, their protective nature actually extends to the cat.
What about visitors? Say the doorbell rings or the mail carrier drops a package loudly on the porch. How does a well-trained Doberman process that event?
This is the ultimate test of their discerning protectiveness. The exact sequence when the doorbell rings should be an initial alert. They will bark, move to the door, signal that the perimeter has been breached.
Which is what you want a guard dog to do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But the crucial second phase happens the moment you arrive at the door. When you exhibit calm energy, welcoming the visitor, the dog reads your physiological state.
And their brain registers that the threat level is 0.
Right. They settle down the moment they read that calm energy. They are quite literally using your nervous system as a barometer.
That is the 1890s blueprint right there.
Reading you to read the room.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. We've conquered the schedule, the training, the doorbell, but we have to talk about the physical reality of the dog itself.
The hidden realities.
Look, from the hair on your couch to the weather outside. Because the sources dive into realities that seem to completely blindside new owners. Starting with the grooming myth.
Oh, the low-maintenance coat.
Right. The assumption is it's a short-haired dog, so my house will be spotless. I don't need a groomer.
Well, yes, you are skipping the complex professional grooming.
Yeah.
In that sense, they are wash and wear, but the reality of their shedding is completely different.
The sources describe their hair as being like tiny little eyelashes.
That's incredibly accurate.
And they shed this consistent amount year-round. Because the hair is short and coarse, it doesn't just rest on top of your furniture like fluff. It weaves itself stubbornly into fabrics and carpets.
It's like hundreds of tiny needles threading themselves into your life. It's an important reality check for neat freaks.
You literally need tweezers to get them out of fleece jackets.
You do. And that specific coat architecture creates a massive vulnerability regarding the climate, too.
Because they lack a natural undercoat.
Exactly. They have almost zero natural insulation. In cold weather, their core temperature drops rapidly. They absolutely require heavy winter coats to be outside safely.
And what about the summer?
In peak summer heat, their dark, uninsulated coats absorb the sun. They are highly susceptible to heat stroke, so you have to shift their activity times based on the weather.
That level of management forces us to address the financial reality, too. The sources are very clear about the surprising costs.
The economic footprint is substantially heavier than your average dog.
We're talking quality athletic nutrition to maintain their muscle mass, ongoing training, and enrichment.
But the heaviest financial burden comes from their preventive vet care, specifically their genetic health profile.
We have to specifically name dilated cardiomyopathy, or DCM. This isn't just a casual risk, right?
No, it is a pervasive electrical and structural failing of the heart muscle in this breed. Managing it means budgeting for proactive cardiac screening.
Like wearing monitors.
Yes, 24-hour Holter monitors to track the electrical rhythm and regular echocardiograms. These are meaningfully higher lifetime costs than a low-maintenance breed.
So we have a significant financial cost, but the sources also hammer on something I found fascinating: the emotional cost.
The emotional presence.
Yeah, this dog asks for genuine emotional presence. If an owner is physically there but emotionally absent, say doom scrolling on their phone, this specific breed will struggle visibly, right?
They will. They sense that emotional vacuum. A Doberman will sit in front of you and begin to exhibit stress behaviors because they feel the disconnect.
Wow. If they are that sensitive, what happens during major life transitions? Say you're moving to a new house.
Moving requires intense micromanagement. You have to maintain familiar bedding and feeding times to ground them.
And what about bringing a newborn baby into the home?
You prep them gradually with sounds and smells weeks in advance. You apply baby lotion to your hands. If you prepare them, they adapt beautifully.
And finally, what about travel?
They do great in cars,
Yeah.
usually with a harness or crate, because they just hate being left behind.
But if you have to board them.
Boarding can be highly stressful due to their deep attachment. It requires gradual familiarization with the sitter months in advance. If we connect this to the bigger picture, all of this, the time budget, the heart screenings, the intense emotional monitoring, it brings us to a final matching exercise.
Let's summarize it. Who is this dog actually for?
It's for someone wanting active engagement and companionship with the emotional and financial bandwidth to handle it.
And who is it definitely not for?
Someone wanting an independent dog, or who is away for long stretches without support, or who relies purely on a big yard. It's not the easiest first dog, but not impossible with realistic expectations.
Which reminds us that living with a Doberman isn't passive dog ownership. It's a dog that becomes a functional part of how your household runs year after year.
A load-bearing pillar of your life.
But before we wrap up, I want to leave you with one final provocative thought to mull over. The sources repeatedly emphasize that this breed constantly reads its owner's emotions and energy to figure out if a situation is safe.
Real-time monitoring.
Exactly. So, does living with a dog that acts as a highly sensitive, real-time emotional mirror actually force you to become a calmer, more grounded, and self-aware person yourself?
That is a fascinating question to consider.
This deep dive is for educational purposes only. If you're concerned about your dog's health, always consult your veterinarian.